Welcome.
1998.
1998. You join us on this very special edition of 4020 Live because James isn't here, but he has been replaced with a Tissot shirt. So because people have said that about James in the past, and some VHS tapes. Because why were we talking about VHS tapes downstairs? I can't remember. But Phil's found some, including the 1998 Papua New Guinean Grand Final. Now, I think we're desperate to see this because I don't think I've ever watched any Papua New Guinean television. But B, Phil's trying to find out the result. It must be on Rugby League Project or something. We must be able to find out somewhere. So if you know who won the 1998 Papua New Guinean Grand Final, please let us know because we're desperate to find out. Welcome to the programme. It is 4020 Live. We're in September already.
It's autumn.
I know.
Playoff country.
Well, no, I tell you what, I'm sick of seeing that video on Sky already, that the playoffs are coming. But I can't tell you who's in the games because we don't know, but it says Eliminator 1, September 27th. Eliminator 2. Exciting. I've been trilling it all day. Exciting idea of what we can do. That's coming up. And
it's not I'm not listening.
No,
I'm still trying to find the results of the Cambridge Cup.
And if you know what a Murrock is, I'll search it out myself now. Well, the people, coming because there will be.
I've got Cambridge United's results, if you like that.
I've got a Murruku, which apparently is an Indian biscuit, but I'm assuming that's not.
Every day is a school day.
It is, especially on this programme. So if you are from Papua New Guinea, I know we've got listeners all over the world. If you do know what any of these things are,
Facebook. I can't get on Facebook.
How was London? Was it? Did you see Dr. Ikram Butt and his?
I saw him from afar. Didn't get to speak to him.
Former guest of the programme.
I wanted to go particularly because it's one of those ticking off the ground.
You didn't go by train, did you?
No.
Did you get told about the train journey?
I didn't get delayed by train.
No.
No seats to be had.
No.
And I wanted to see Wimbledon before it doesn't become a Super League ground anymore. Just to get a sense of what the competition might be losing in terms of the facility, because we could talk all day about grading and its merits or otherwise, and what London were told and what the truth might now be about where they'll be playing next year. But great ground, reminded me very much of York, but slightly more compact, all seater, about 10,000 capacity, state of the art, had toilets that worked and plenty of them.
Which some Super League grounds may not have. I don't know.
There was an after party, which probably was because it was their last home game of the season. But a DJ playing and obviously 27 degrees, so it was lovely. Probably about half full. I think the official attendance was 4,400. So yeah, it was a long day, but well worth it.
And at least you didn't go by train. So,
no, at least I didn't go by train.
Golden Point, we should ban it.
Very hard to get out of London on a Sunday night by car. Yes.
Where South-West London, isn't it?
Yeah, because you've got to go right through the central London to get back onto the M1, and every road in that there London is 20 mile an hour maximum. That's without the roadworks and the lots of traffic on a Sunday night. But no, it was the most bizarrest of games. I don't think in all the time I've been watching Rugby League, which is a very long time, I've seen too many more injustice results.
You're saying that London was robbed?
Well, London in a sense robbed themselves. They scored 4 tries to 3. They had a conversion from the touchline that hit the post. They had a drop goal from 45 metres out that hit the underside of the bar. But they didn't ever once try and close the game down. And in those last few minutes, they were almost a little bit trying too hard to make sure they won it. And Leeds played about 5 get out of jail free cards. London, I think, had 3 tries disallowed in the second half, all correctly disallowed, and Leeds had 1. But as Brad Arthur and everybody connected with Leeds quite honestly said at the end, they may not have deserved to win, but actually at this time of the year, the only thing that does matter is a win. They're going to have to be so much better, they know that, but they put themselves in a position where after next weekend, depending on how results go, not least theirs at home to Hull, which after yesterday is not a foregone conclusion, they could be in the 6th.
game management. It's all about game management.
Yeah, and it was such a deja vu feeling from obviously the game at Headingley earlier in the year where Brodie Croft dropped a goal in golden point extra time to beat London.
Andy says there might be an echo. They shouldn't be. Let me point that towards you, Phil, and point this towards me. Does that sound any better, Andy? Ian's listening as well. Ian, get well soon.
Yes, definitely get well soon.
I'll have to write some words down.
You will.
Yeah. But if you do know the result of the 1998 Papua New Guinea Grand Final, if you just joined us, that is the big question.
Not just the Grand Final, but the Cambridge
Cup Grand Final. It brought together the Muruks from Kokopo and Gorokas Norths. Right, Gorokas Souths.
They must have been beaten in the semi-finals.
Sounds weird. Well, let me see if that sounds any better. You can tell us at home. Yes, no better for Phil. No, we'll sack Phil. We'll do the sound check on that. I mean, I was talking to one of my colleagues before we started the programme about some sound issues elsewhere, so I'm just blaming everything.
Yes. Is that better? I'll turn it down.
Is it any better? I mean, we haven't said anything important yet, so it's okay. Better, says Andy. But did he say that before we started fiddling? That's but only a little. Well, hang on. Let me turn that. Let me turn that down. Is that any better for you, listener? It's going to sound great on the podcast, but you know. The podcast is provided by a different thing, so that'll be okay because that's in the middle of us. So before we say anything important, and still to come, ideas of what we can do with sort of Yorkshire, Lancashire, because it's back apparently.
Back.
Sounds better now, says Emma. Sounds like a platform announcement, but not for Hogwarts. Not for Hogwarts.
All those who were waiting for a train yesterday.
Yeah. So well done to King's Cross there. London. And we've got to keep them in because everyone likes Mike Eccles.
Mike Eccles has done a stunning job. Obviously got the team up unexpectedly, which is part of the reason behind why they've struggled this year, and has kept them playing in such a manner where even yesterday there wasn't a London fan who was necessarily disappointed with the result just because of the way that his team played. They're desperate to not finish bottom because they feel that makes a statement before the inevitable happens. I think Mike's been able to see the writing on the wall for a few weeks. He didn't particularly want to talk about more players leaving. Hello.
See if that works any better.
And I think he's resigned to the fate of the club. There's going to need to be some big decisions made, and he's obviously got to feel that he still wants to be there when there's a further rebuild to go on. But it's funny because we were obviously there was a topic of conversation on the way down and the way up about London and whether exemption should be made at this late stage to keep them in Super League because they've entertained us. It raised two questions. One is that would not be the team next year.
No, because they're all gone. They've all been picked off.
So again, you're starting well behind the eight ball. Where do you recruit? So that's one issue. The other I think that is pertinent is, I don't know why we're raising this question now as if it's something new. It's like we were having these conversations in 1980. I can remember going to Craven Cottage early in the Fulham career when they had a famous John Player Cup win against Leeds. One of the biggest days, along with their opening fixture against Wigan, that they won at the Cottage. Played Wakefield, I think, in the round after, and Wakefield only just beat them in front of about 15,000 fans. And you go, 15,000 fans, Craven Cottage, 45 years ago. What have we learnt? Nothing. So this issue about whether London should be in Super League next year is nothing to do with league position and who is playing for them at the moment. It's the fact that the game has never answered the question, what do we want from a team in the capital? What are we prepared to do to keep a team in the capital? What does a team in the capital bring outside of a team on the field? Part of that is we need to preserve this pool of talent in London and the South. And the other part is what dispensation are other clubs prepared to give, like we did with Catalan when they came in, like the NRL did with Melbourne, and we're not comparing like we like in terms of available resource, but the game needs to make a decision what it wants London to be and not just say, oh, it's all IMG's fault. We've had these debates. When London were admitted into the Super League unexpectedly in 1996, because it was decided by whoever was in charge at that time that we needed a presence in the capital, that question was as valid now as it was then. Well, what are we doing about it? we as a game? What do we want from the capital? Stop blaming everybody
Well, it depends,
else
doesn't it?
when
Because
we as a sport won't come to terms.
it depends, because if we're sticking with 12 teams,
Which we are, because
so-
there is not sufficient talent.
so we're keeping London in, which means we have to lose somebody else.
Or somebody else who's due to come up doesn't.
Well, I'm not going to be happy about that, am I? But so, say we get rid of Castleford, then they're not going to be happy, which is why we're going to get rid of Castleford, because they've put some seats in their stand.
But also,
they're trying.
Castleford were relegated when Catalan were exempt from relegation.
Brackets and Wigan broke the salary cap.
So the game needs to decide what the rules are, not at the end of the season, but at the beginning of the season, and then everybody sticks to it because they know those are the rules. You cannot change what is going to happen to London now because we all love them as our favourite second team, and they were brilliant yesterday.
Do we kick out Hull because they're rubbish, or do we kick out Huddersfield because they got less people at their game yesterday than London did? And we can't say it was on the telly, because every game's on the telly now.
It's again nothing to do with the logistics of now. It's to do with the strategy of what do we want this game to look like.
Andy says biannual relegation, which I think, do they do that in the Argentinian football? Argentinian football, which is the home of mad ideas. Andy will now tell me on YouTube if it has. If we want London in Super League, say Super League Raw, we need to give them 3 years without the fear of relegation to build a competitive side, or there will never be a London in Super League.
But I also think we need to give them dispensation on things like the salary cap. They need to be able to spend more, because clearly the cost of having driven past a few petrol stations on the way home last night, the cost of living in London is significantly higher than it is in the rest of it. And so to attract players, they got it right in the late 1990s, and we've spoken about this before, that they had a mix of legendary players like Martin Offiah and Sean Edwards. They had a cream of a crop of Australians who were playing for their country at the time. They had the first crop of juniors beginning to come through. They had a coach who had some revolutionary ideas at the time and didn't mind the odd swear word on television. They had a backer in Virgin that looked fantastic for the sport as a whole, and somebody in Richard Branson, who at the time was looked up at as a great innovator and entrepreneur. We had all of that. You know, for some of the games they had almost 5-figure attendances, and we've thrown it all away. We have, as a game, not David Hughes, who's invested money. We need to decide what we want. If we don't think the model is right in London, then the game needs to decide what the model is, if London is worth saving. And I think it is.
We should do a poll of our listeners and say, should we kick out Huddersfield and leave London in? And then when it comes out 100%, we'll go, well, a poll of listeners to this podcast said. So I'm not anti anyone, just anti Huddersfield. Big news from Paul. The result was 32-16 to the Muruks.
Right.
Checking out on the copy I uploaded some time ago. Great game, by the way. The PNG final included Michael Yazoo, who spent many years in the British game from 2003 to 2016. It's all care for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was big. It was great. Well, it was big. It was great at Hull care. Talking of big, Emmanuel Wayne plays for. Is from PNG. He came off the bench yesterday for London and absolutely creamed Brodie Croft. It was one of the highlight moments of the game, but not for Brodie Croft, who was probably still wearing his studs in his chest. All perfectly legal, and Wayne will be playing for Bradford next year.
So why did the Kokopu Maruks not play in the 1998 World Cup? Oh, we've binned it then, haven't we? We binned it because Hunter Mariners got to the final. But never mind. Ian keeps saying I need to turn the volume. I keep moving it. I don't think it's cheap microphones, Ian. This is someone asked yesterday on. It was Phil on YouTube asked yesterday, is there any money in Rugby League? And the answer is no, because this is why we've got these microphones. That's enough about London for now.
They were great. They couldn't have done any more. They're desperate to get one more point than Hull in the final 3 games of the season, and then the team will break up. And I said, David Hughes needs to decide if he wants to reinvest. Bearing in mind for the foreseeable future, they won't be in Super League. But the club also needs to tie into its local community. It needs to have the kind of reserves and women's and wheelchair under its own banner, and not just maybe a badge, and all the things that other clubs like Hull KR are trying to do, that Castleford are trying to do, to make sure that they accrue enough grading. You know, the IMG haven't said you haven't got enough grading points because we don't like you. They've said you haven't got enough grading points because you haven't got enough going on at the club. But they were great, and it you know, it was a great day in terms of drama, but not the greatest standard I've ever seen from either team.
But it's Golden Point, so at least everyone could talk about Golden Point for another half an hour until something else potted around.
It's so dramatic, and you know, we're a sport that is desperate for our place in the firmament because of the drama that we could create. Why would you throw that away? It's not about what a team deserves or doesn't deserve. It's also about how they play in that extra 10 minutes. And one of the reasons Leeds won is because London couldn't properly set up for a drop goal attempt. The ball went dead. Leeds got a 7-tackle set, and it was on the end of the 7th tackle they'd made just sufficient ground for Croft to drop the goal. So,
Dylan, and breaking news. It's not that exciting. Morgan Knowles has been awarded a testimonial year by the Rugby Football League following 10 seasons at St Helens. So that's good because he's actually
Two of them have been spent at the disciplinary.
There you go. He spent 10 years at a club as opposed to those people who just get them for playing for 10 years and just randomly being given them. So well done to Morgan Knowles, a proud Cumbrian. He was
important for them this week in their narrow win at Huddersfield.
So well done to him. And go by, he'll know that I have a shirt out and all kinds of stuff next year, so that's good. People in the chat just having a show amongst themselves, which is always good. Robert Hacker, don't know if he's related to the dog, says, these sending offs are killing the game, might as well go home when sending off players, refs, influencing the result. Badger says, don't hit people in the head with your shoulder then. That seems fair enough.
Well, all I can go with is, if this was James Child sat here,
yeah,
and you'd said to him, what did you think of the Paul Vaughan sending off and the Fenton Rodgers? He would have said, it's simple, straightforward red card, bend your back, direct shoulder to the head, just that Burgess caught the headlines with his comments.
Well, he did send me...
That's what he would have said if he'd been here.
He sent me a message. He sent me a message at 1:25 on Saturday morning saying...
Neither of you have got enough to do.
No, saying... find the clip of... We didn't say it like this, but find the clip of me saying that... I said this at the start of the season. And I couldn't find it. I went through some shows, but I just...
And what did he say?
People will stay down. And they probably will. Well, they have. We're not sure what they want to do we? Players, 1 week is staying up, and 1 week they're not standing up.
And I think, again, I get what Sam's there to protect his players, but perhaps too many of his players are seeing red and yellow cards, and it's all right him saying, we did this the other week against St Helens. Well, you've done it again this week against Leeds. So is the issue with tackling technique within your club, or is it the issue with sending people off? The only other thing I would have asked James if he was here was, clearly at the start of the season I think we knew what a red card was, and it created a lot of furore because we hadn't necessarily seen that in previous seasons. Then it just seemed to lapse a little bit. We were still seeing shoulders to heads that weren't automatic sending offs. They were either on report, they were yellow cards, or a combination of both, or retrospective bans. Now red cards are back. So I think that's what would frustrate more than anything, that we seem to have reverted back to where we were in sort of February and March, and what happened to the middle of the season.
It's always going to happen, isn't it?
Well,
every time something happens.
It is technique. If you stand up in the tackle these days and attempt to not wrap your arms round and lead with your shoulder, and it hits somebody's head, that's no mitigation. The players do know that the laws have changed.
I don't know. I'm just going to put one microphone there.
Have we still got microphones?
Yeah. So we'll just leave that there and see if it works. Does that any better, listener? I tell you, the internet is a pain in the backside. But a podcast will sound okay. So that's fine.
Good, because I'm tired now.
Good old Sam Burgess. Where are they? Third in the table. Lost to Lee.
Likelihood is now it's going to be really difficult for them to break into that top two, and that does change the dynamic at the top of the league.
Are Lee going to cut off Catalans and Leeds because it's tight now? St Helens and Salford on 28, Lee on 27, Catalans and Leeds on 26. all battling for those final 3 places.
But a lot of those teams have got to play each other, so not everybody can pick up points every week. The issue would be, Salford Catalan this week. Is that going to upset the apple cart even more? Points difference could come into it, where again Salford will need a big win at some stage. But it's absolutely fascinating. Leah have got the proverbial wet sail, which I believe we're contractually obliged to say.
I know you've got. I tell you, if you're on Sky, you've got to say "up your guts" or something. What do they keep saying? I know they keep saying something about guts. I don't know what it is. We'll blame Tez because I don't think he listens.
I saw him yesterday after the game. He was in good form.
He's always in good form.
Supporting Jared.
Well, they've been very happy with the result then, wouldn't they? But yeah, it is all exciting. It's all to play for.
Yeah, and it's what we've wanted for. I mean, again, there's 2 debates, aren't there? There's the standard of the rugby.
Correct.
And there is the excitement with 3 rounds to go, and everybody talking about when was the last time we had 8 teams involved at this stage. I mean, we did have 2022, the last game of the season between Castleford and Leeds decided who made the playoffs. So it's not unfamiliar territory, but I think this year is as an exciting end to a playoff season that we've had for a while.
Badger says, "Evening chaps, it must be a football international week this week. Why else would we have 3 games kicking off at 8 p.m. on Friday?" It's no Thursday game again. Castleford, Leeds, Hull and Wigan, Hull KR. I mean, one of the issues is Sky Sports, the
provider of all soccer,
the funders of rugby league in this country, pretty much. Well, they are, aren't they? They fund everything.
Yeah.
Right. Say they wanted a game on Saturday night when
8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock.
Prime time.
And they
which they had this week with Catalan and Wigan.
So say they had that before, or maybe coming up, I don't know, because I don't want to reveal anything. Say they asked the club, can we move your game to 8 o'clock because it'd be better for us? We can put it on main event.
Which was going to be played on that day anyway. We're just moving the time from, say, mid-afternoon to early evening.
We're going to give you the pieces of a jigsaw, but not give you the picture. And then the club say no.
And then we go to the provider of most of our income and say, could we have some more, please? And they go, just remind me again, how helpful were you when we offered to give you primetime viewing and increase your figures, and you said no?
There was an issue.
I know it's short notice, but look at everything in sport these days that's televised. It's short notice, isn't it?
Do Cas get much corporate on a Friday? Do they have any corporate? Have they got those huts behind the goal? Is that corporate, Cas? I don't know. I know. Someone brought up an issue that there's no news about Widnes Vikings in the local newspaper in Widnes. The Widnes Sentinel, we'll call it, because I don't know what it's called. Clubs have to force feed news to every single media outlet these days. And I don't know why they don't. You've got to do the work for people, because there aren't that many people out there anymore.
No, they don't have reporters, they don't have sub-editors, and in a lot of cases, they're part of a bigger organisational group where content is passed down to them.
And that includes Sky or the BBC or whatever. You have to tell people what's going on, otherwise they won't know. So when we come to this part of the season, well, where's all the coverage? Where's everything going on? Now, granted, there was nothing on the BBC website ahead of the Huddersfield Saints game telling you that the Huddersfield Saints game was on, apart from if you looked on the what's coming up on TV bit. But it's... What did Huddersfield go to the BBC and say, we know you've got your podcast every week, how do you fancy Leroy Cudjoe on it, for example? I mean, they had Elliot Minchella on. I'm sure he's got a lovely story to tell, but it's of no relevance to this week's game on the telly. There's a bit of joined up thinking there. It's like we should get Alex on, but we'll probably get Alex on when London have decided to be kicked out of the competition or whatever.
Yes.
But he's going to come on because we like him. He'll be all right, and, we said he'd get him on. You've got to help everyone. You've got to go to people and tell them to do stuff. I don't know. So if Sky say, can we move your game a few hours so you can get on a better slot on TV?
Can we turn them down?
I mean, it's easy for me to say, isn't it? Because I don't have to rearrange the sandwiches or whatever.
And it depends how much notice Sky were giving, but it was more than like, we've decided on Friday night to move your game on Saturday. It was potentially doable, with obviously some logistical problems for the home team in terms of obviously they've invited people to come at a certain time. But we all understand now that when television rules the roost, that's liable to happen.
Badger says, is it even short notice? The IRL aren't running international soccer. You know when the international breaks are coming years off. I mean, this is a game which wasn't in an international week, but you're right. We know there's international football coming up. We know we can work around it because we know when the fixtures are, but we don't.
I mean, it'd be great to see what the Catalan-Wigan coverage figures were on Saturday night, because that would either justify this argument or blow it out the water. But, we needed a big audience. We know what that game would probably get if it was a Friday night. Be between 100 and 150,000 viewers. If suddenly, when the figures come through, although they don't publicise them as much now, do they? That's
because you can't find them out for free anymore.
250, 300,000, then it's a different dynamic, isn't it?
Back to, as Paul says, happens with football all the time in terms of moving games. I mean, how many Leeds United games kick off when they're supposed to do? Because they get moved every single week.
And in the contract, there will be a stipulated time. So Sky won't want to breach that because there might be compensation involved. But no, the ability to move a game to its best time slot with sufficient notice is not something we can ever turn down.
And we can't compare ourselves to the NRL because they've got a completely different... I know everything's funded by TV again, but they've got a different kind of structure to their TV.
And they don't play overlapping games, and historically they haven't.
I wonder if that's why they get big crowds. Oh no, it's because it's bigger. Rugby League's bigger in Australia than it is here.
Is it? What is it like Premier League football over there?
I don't know.
Do they have similar sort of crowds to Premier League over here, like 50,000 for matches?
I mean, even give out the attendances for the matches in the paper. That's
well, they got 200.
Kingston Rovers done.
212,000 watched the round of matches in the NRL this week, which is an individual record. And if they get, 204,000 this weekend, they will breach 4 million for the first time in history. I think it's safe to say there's a boom going on down there. So you can't compare anything that's happening here with what's happening over there. That's why they're getting 3 new expansion teams. That's why there's a commitment to the international game. That's why State of Origin draws the biggest ratings of any TV programme in Australia, even more than Love Island.
That's why people watch NRLW.
But you're not comparing like the like. We are over there the equivalent of Premier League football over here.
More in Australia to come. Back to headshots and such. Paul says, at this stage of the season, there's too many Pauls on this programme. At this stage of the season, you think that the clubs would have trained enough to be able to eliminate high shots, consistent 6 game bans, and they would disappear overnight. And I'm very happy to just ban everyone draconianly. That's fine by me.
Well, Fenton Rodgers has got 4 over 2 incidents, and Paul Vaughan, we know, has got 3. Warrington yet to decide if they're going to appeal.
I saw a headline saying it was a huge ban. 3's not huge.
3 rules him out of the remainder of the regular season. But yeah, the best way to change your tackling technique is either to ban people or fine them very heavily, because in our particular game they're not that well paid, are they?
Where's the Players Union gone?
Which one?
The one that they all started shouting about months and months ago, that one. Ian says, can't litigate against accidental shots, that's true. The issue is the daft bans are clearly accidental connections, not the cards. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be bans if it's adjudged to have mitigation. That seems fair.
Yeah, in both of these cases, this weekend, where the bans have followed on the back of that, is no mitigation. Now, Warrington will need to decide if they want to challenge that. But at the time, the other thing I've seen, which is ridiculous, is blaming the match referee. He's taking advice from the video referee, who's viewing it from more angles than we have. There's a programme on. We're recording this at 6:30 on Monday evening for those on the podcast. There's a programme on in 2 hours' time on BBC One about has rugby done enough to prevent head injuries. I suggest before people start deciding whether the bans are relevant and the punishment fits the crime, just watch that first, because this is why we're doing it.
I mean, the other Paul was talking about the moving fixtures here, but when he says keep doing the same things, get the same results, I mean, that could be anything. That could be me and the microphones on this programme, in fairness. But
or could just be the strapline for Rugby League.
keep doing the same things, get the same results, which is why we're bringing back the Origin match, because it's never not worked in the 100 and year history of Rugby League.
So why the last time we had it did they decide not to have it? What was the reason?
Because it's rubbish.
Well,
because no one cares.
Nobody wanted to go and watch it.
No.
It wasn't commercially viable.
The only people who like Yorkshire, the people who, when there's a fight and it's, say, Leeds versus Wigan, shout, Yorkshire, Yorkshire, because that's what we sound like. But otherwise, Lancashire doesn't exist.
When Rostock stopped sponsoring it, there was no desire
the good
for
people at Rodstock. Well, I'm not going to go up to Sam Burgess and say, Sam, great player, well done on the Hall of Fame, your idea's crap.
I understand what Sam is saying. He's saying he doesn't want Luke fixtures, and he wants something that the clubs will support, that it is elevated slightly above the domestic competition and prepares players for international competition, a little bit like State of Origin. So obviously, two states neighbouring, therefore over here we must have two counties neighbouring.
England versus
That's
Wales.
the answer.
Well, I've got an idea, and unfortunately...
Is this what you paid for?
This is the idea I've come up with. It's my idea. When I say it's my idea, I think I've stolen it from a lot of different ideas. I've produced the graphics, I'll put it up in a minute.
That'll be good for the podcast.
It will be good for but I'll read you through it. The problem is, I'm not sure the intensity is there in this idea, but it's going to be better than Yorkshire Lancashire. Anyway.
Well, you build intensity. There was, State of Origin when it started, and again, hopefully not teaching people to suck eggs, was one game because they didn't think it would work.
Now they've got women playing it as well and everything.
So whatever it is, whatever your suggestion is, the intensity will need building into it.
Right. Well, we'll do that. The Roses will look great on TV in front of 2,500 people at Headingley on a Tuesday night, says Badger Badger. Well, are you ready? Right.
Hold on to your hats.
Where's me thing? I've got to find the graphic now because I've lost it. I think this might be it. No, that's not it. This is it. It's the Rugby League All-Star Cavalcade. That's what it's called. You've got celebrity managers.
Right.
So, like Luke Littler. He's a celebrity. He likes Rugby League.
Stuart Pearce.
Who else likes
How many
Rugby
teams
League?
have you got?
Two. Just two.
Right,
just
so
two.
there you go. There's your celebrity managers.
So, but they're like figureheads. They're not really going to do anything.
No, they're going to promote it.
Exactly. But we've got legends as coaches. So I was thinking Martin Afire, because he's Ellery Hanley, Kevin Sinfield, Paul Sculter. These kind of people who are recognisable to the general public at large.
Know a little bit about coaching as well.
Gary Schofield.
I thought you said people that knew a little bit about coaching.
And instead of having it Yorkshire versus Lancashire, because that's obviously archaic, open draft of all talent. Yeah. So it's picking sides in. So now you've got an event because you've got the coaches and the famous people.
And the thing about an open draft, because this has been talked about in another variant of Rugby League.
This is not an original idea.
That's a television event in itself.
They did it on the 100, and no one cares about the 100. So Luke Littler and Paul Sculthorpe are picking their team, and they can design their kit and have whatever, and they'll pick. Who would you pick first in the open draft in Super League?
Oh, you'd
Mikey Lewis. I'm picking Mikey Lewis because he's.
Well, and I'll go George Williams.
There you go. So, and then when George Williams gets his head knocked off, Sam Burgess will be well chuffed because he backed this idea. 3 modified rules. I don't even know what that means yet. So maybe 6 points for a try under the post or something. 4 quarters, unlimited subs, rolling subs, whatever.
Golden player. If they score, you get
golden
5 points.
Right. So it's just any old daft ideas. We'll throw them all in. Double points in the second half.
Yeah. Play the Joker. Whatever that means.
Yeah. Also, fastest player. Could bring that back.
Yeah. We
Goal kicking competitions.
Yeah.
Everyone likes that. Yeah. Get Tara Jane Stanley in.
I think the NRL are doing a fastest player at their grand final this year.
Steal that back. Mascot races. Everyone loves mascots.
As long as they fall over. They've got to have hurdles to get over.
So we've got to have that. And winning team wins X amount of pounds, provided by the sponsor, donated to the charity of their choice. So then you've got the charity buy-in as well. So it's not... It's going to be fun, but that's
what's been. This has been talked about in wheelchair rugby league. So what you try and do is give a different product to television because they'll buy it. So you go to them and say it's Yorkshire Lancashire, not interested. Go to them and say it's Littler's All Stars against
Joey Barton, a player someone's come up with here. So that's Joey Barton's theme. Yeah, get him on. He'll sign Joe Burgess. Great idea.
The idea then is it's whatever the concept of the IPL is with the draft or the NFL, and it's an all-star game, which is a little bit like the 100 cricket. You try and get a new audience involved by making it a little bit different to what's expected. Now, how many people would turn up for the first one? How well it would work? It could be club call all over again for all we know. But it's an idea that needs developing that would be different.
It's better than Yorkshire Lancashire, almost.
Yeah, and
I mean, I did come up with this at about 3 a.m. So
I think it needs to be an international trial in some respects as well.
Can we get? I mean, with it being an open thing, I know this Sean Wayne will like this, but it means we can pick anyone. So it could be Australians and New Zealanders and Papua New Guineans.
Yeah, you're going to have to play it out of season. You won't get buy-in
well, not
from
from
those clubs.
not from the NRL.
No. No, it can be any. It should be
just anyone.
The best teams that you can pick. The best teams being if you've got picks. You draft. Presumably you'd have a budget maybe, and players would be valued.
Oh no, you just pick them like playground style.
I'd have I'd put a price on them, and say your budget is limited, and then people can buy in, pick their own team.
I realise I've gone down the route of making things up that are never going to happen.
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, nothing that's ever going to happen.
But yeah,
they're going to make
something that is different to Yorkshire Lancashire, because again, let's just say Ollie Leyland deserves to, after another great performance this week for London Broncos. Warrington are picking him up. You were to pick that team today, Ollie Leyland couldn't play for Lancashire or Yorkshire, and yet he's one of the talents you might want to pick.
Although, as Paul has pointed out, the Don Peters rule. So, Squads of 25 says Paul. So now we're all coming up with ideas, aren't we? Badger says modified rules like teams have 9 players. Anything, just. I mean, 13 would be ideal because then
the other thing about modified rules is that, and again, I don't know enough about cricket, but don't they have golden overs or something, or a period of play where the rules are
the power play,
power play. Well, our power play, which a team could play one power play each in the game, that would be the opposition have to play with 12 players for 5 minutes, and then Sam would be in his element because his team train all week with 12 players.
Or you have an extra player on, and then we have 15 aside, and then really upset people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring back lineouts. We could have lineouts.
No. Now you've gone. No. You lost me then. I was with you all the way. As soon as you said lineouts, have gone.
Please write your letters to League Express and get it in. The golden ball in Saudi snooker, says Badger. Have you seen the snooker where there's no one watching it on Eurosport at the minute? It's hilarious. So yeah, there you go. So that was my idea. It filled 5 minutes of the programme.
I think the other thing about the idea is it's probably worth doing. Do you remember IMG?
I've heard of them, yeah.
Remember the press conference?
We used to like them, yeah.
Remember the press conference they had? The press conference. The only press conference. When they outlined what they wanted to do and the way they perceived the game on the field to be. And we got quite excited because they had all these ideas about getting rid of loot fixtures. One of the things they said was they wanted a new event.
Well, there you go. Sell it to IMG. If you're watching IMG...
Can we have an interview, please?
Yeah, and you can buy the rights to the idea. East versus West, draw a line down the centre of the country. Where's France then? Because it's big.
I just think
right down the channel, and then you've got England versus France again.
The thing about a draft, East versus West over the last few years, obviously that's been slightly redressed at the moment with Hull KR's excellent performance. That the West would be better, significantly better, and you'd be going to games already with a knowledge of who would be the overwhelming favourites. If it's a draft, the talent is equally split, so that would work.
We are at that stage of the year where, when you go to press conferences or on Zoom, there are not many questions left to ask that you haven't asked anyone. That's why, if I turn up to Saints, I'll ask Paul.
Everybody's got respect for their opponent, whoever they're playing, whatever form they're in. We're expecting the best of them. But
because you have run out of things to say now, so now it is coming up with ideas for things that aren't going to happen. So if you've got any ideas, do send them in.
That aren't going to happen.
No, because if we are going to do something, we can't just do Yorkshire Lancashire again because it's proven to fail. That's the problem. It's not as if we've tried it and brought it back.
There is a parallel here to the way we started. For those who could hear,
in Papua New Guinea.
No, with London.
Yes.
We're constantly going back to things that we never solved in the first place. So, have a new strategy for London and stick with it. Have a new strategy for a new competition and stick with it. Don't keep... The default position is not to keep going back to what's failed before and then going, but it's failed. Well, there's a surprise.
Yeah. So if you've got any ideas,
Sillier than ours.
Like Cumbria versus everyone else, because, Kyle Amor, he could be one of the legend coaches of the team. Yeah, Kevin Sinfield is one of your coaches. It's going to get media attention.
Would the RFU allow him?
I don't know. Might even get on the BBC. Well, they're losing all their coaches. I don't know what's going on there. I just keep reading about it.
But you could put... Again, the other thing that works is if it's a new event, it's not covered by any existing TV deal, so it doesn't automatically go to your primary broadcaster. It can go out to market, and whilst the BBC don't have a huge amount of money to throw at something like that, there could be 100 type deal with that, where it's a new product embraced by more than one media outlet, coverage shared, your impact is greater. What could we offer at the moment? I can imagine. Is that the head of Sky Sport? Would like to offer you Yorkshire and Lancashire.
Yeah. The Great Rugby League Bake Off. Have we done that yet? Why can't we get anyone on any of these celebrity programmes?
Because we don't have any celebrities that everybody's heard of.
Did Mikey Lewis go to the golf this weekend with somebody else? I think it was Jez Litton, I think. I'm assuming there'll be some Rugby League personalities.
Which IMG will have arranged that, but they don't do anything.
I'm assuming there'll be someone at the St Ledger, because that's sponsored by Betfred.
What?
So.
Jockey? Mikey Lewis on a horse?
On a horse. On a horse. York did something the other week at the Ebo Festival. They were doing jockey training and stuff.
Did they take their chocolate with them?
I don't know. I should have asked yesterday. I was at the Leeds York game. I should have asked.
Where's the chocolate?
Where's the free chocolates? Yeah. When Kelsey Gentles accused me of stitching her up, I should have said, that's not fair. Have you got any free chocolate?
Yeah.
Should have said that. London Youth do a North versus South London series, says Paul.
Yeah,
well, Leeds do that as well.
I was at it last week.
I saw you, yeah.
It was fabulous. But that's more about junior development and also outside of a formal scholarship system. Every club should have that kind. There is no reason why even Wakefield couldn't play Castleford in that kind of a under 14, 15, 16 Origin type series. Rhubarb of Origin or whatever you want to call it. But that's about player development, not an elite event.
Go back to Whites versus Stripes, which is what they had in the 1950s for tour trial games. Reds versus
Green
Greens.
against Red, yeah. Probables, possibles.
Reds versus Greens. Rugby Aids with celebrities and ex-players. This is going back to Boris Johnson again, isn't it? We don't want to know anymore.
No, this is pro-celebrity golf.
Oh, we could do that. Let's still have the Celebrity Golf Rugby League Day. Has that been binned off now? Let's get back to actually. Was there any other Rugby League news we needed to talk about? No, I've filled 10 minutes with that nonsense.
Danny Houghton's retired.
Danny Houghton's retired?
Well,
retiring,
but he's also injured and may not play again. And he's been when you look at club servants, he's been absolutely the epitome of Hull.
And immortalised in one moment. Yeah. I was trying to... I need to find the audio because it's one of Craig Murdoch's great calls, because he thinks he scored. But he hasn't, because and everyone expected it. And
was I on commentary with him for that?
You might have been, I think.
I think I was. I remember the moment.
Yeah, it was Ben Curry. He should have scored, but he didn't score. And Hull finally won at Wembley.
So he's been magnificent, absolutely magnificent, as a servant for the Black and Whites, and they will miss him because he's, what was it, 600 tackles a game he averages, and 13,000 a season.
No other buggers doing it for them. I saw them a bit on Saturday.
So yeah, they'll miss him. And Rhys Martin scored 1,000 points for Leeds, which before he leaves for Hull KR, he was really really pleased about to etch his name in the top 15 scorers in history for a club.
That must be on a board somewhere.
Well,
I'm sure if it's not, it will be at some point.
Should be. I think he's 14th. But what an achievement! 1,000 points in 6 years.
I'm going to say, how long's he been there? 6 years.
Amazing.
I was at Headingley yesterday, Women's Super League. Leeds 6, York Valkyrie 32. They're really good, York. They've got Canadians and everything.
Better than Leeds.
Yeah.
That was clear from that score.
Rhiannon Marshall scored as well.
She used to play for Leeds.
She did, and Cass. I was scared of her. She, in the tunnel afterwards, she said hello to me. Well, she said goodbye, and I said, I had to think for a few seconds to say what to say, and said adios.
You should have said, "Have you got any free chocolate?"
Yeah. York are really good, and they're fourth in the table. Because Saints are the best team in Women's Rugby League right now. They beat Huddersfield 40 points to 8, and we're going to still bang that drum. Disgraceful how they didn't. Their men were playing it the same day, and they played at a different venue. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. 4 first half tries from Leah Burke.
Wow.
3 in the game from Danny McGifford. So well done to St Helens. 40 points to 8.
That is impressive.
They're 4 points clear at the top of the table with 2 rounds left. Barrow, team of the year, beat Featherstone 28-16 away from home. And Wigan beat Warrington 82-0. So well done to Wigan. So it's currently
They are looking quite ruthless, Wigan, aren't they?
Well, Saints top. Wigan second, Leeds third, and York fourth.
And it might come down to points difference to decide the top 4.
You wouldn't necessarily have thought Wigan would be above the other 2.
Except Wigan have got to play York this week, which
12 o'clock on Sunday.
could well determine the finishing positions of the top 4, because I think Leeds have got Featherstone.
Yes.
So you'd think that they would win that relatively handsomely.
Warrington, St Helens on Saturday, and on Sunday.
The Jodie Cunningham derby.
Jodie Cunningham derby. There you go. Hopefully Wigan York is shown by someone, because that'd be quite good. Even though I'm working on Sunday, so I can't actually watch it, but if other people can watch it, it'd be nice. Featherstone streamed their game on Sunday, which I didn't realise, which is a bit of a shame, because I could have watched it at the same time I was talking to all you lot, 4 of you, on YouTube. But
did that go well?
I think so. We had a nice natter, and
did you solve any of the world's economic problems or
I mean,
geopolitical issues in the Middle East? Or?
Showed them a CD I bought from a charity shop, and
yeah, but it wasn't Garocco Norse against Kokopo Muruks.
If you do know what a Muruk is, get in touch.
Oh, did you want me to have a look at it?
I couldn't find it. It just kept me coming up with Indian biscuits, and we've got enough biscuits in this studio.
There's never enough biscuits.
No. So the race for Woman of Steel continues as well, but we don't know who it is because they don't reveal the points like the. Well, it's done differently, I'm told.
Okay.
So much I don't know how it's done. In League One, it's finished. Oldham won a thing. They beat Workington 56-0. 2,500.
Got presented with a trophy
by the vice president. See,
who commentated on the game
with the
in
chains
his
on, yeah. Is that because he didn't trust them not being nicked or something? Rochdale 32, Keighley 18.
It looks like a bird on the Mendy Muruks badge.
Oh, you found it?
Well, I found
not
the
Kokopo Muruks. Is it different Muruks? No.
They're probably gone.
Like a chicken or something. They merged. It's like Western Balmain. And now they're going to split up again. North Wales beat Cornwall 40 points to 10. And Midlands 22, Hunslet 28. That's the other game.
So we know that 5th place, 6th in the elimination game, 3 place 4 in the qualifying game. Keighley wait for the winner of one of those, Matt. Yeah.
In the championship, Batley 8, Widnes 12, Bradford 54, Dewsbury 0, Doncaster 16, Halifax 17, coming from 10-0 down and nearly won it, but didn't Doncaster. Featherstone 36, Barrow 18, Swinton 0, Wakefield 60, Toulouse 32, Sheffield 12, and Whitehaven 0, York 40. I don't know how many players did Whitehaven have this week. Let's have a look, see if I can find them. I'm assuming no one made a big deal of it, so I assume they must have had more than the week before. Oh yeah, they had 4 subs, so well done to Whitehaven.
Casserie. The word Muruk refers to a casserie. And
that's a bird. Looks a bit like a chicken or something. Well done to... if someone can send us a shirt, that'd be wonderful. So that was the championship this week, which is just kind of drifting towards its...
Although again, the playoff places are by no means certain, and the order of which they will finish.
Well, this week, York travel to Widnes, big game.
That is a big game. York have got a chance, haven't they? Making the 8.
Do you imagine if Wakefield played York in the final and Mark Applegaus York won?
Or even in the first round of the playoffs.
I don't know how the playoffs work. But that'd be...
And York won.
Is it Schadenfreude? Is that
yeah. Yeah, and plays on the wing.
Barrow Toulouse on Sunday, as well as Widnes York. It's Batley Doncaster, Halifax Dewsbury, Sheffield Bradford, Swinton Fez.
Sheffield Bradford's a huge game, which is also their heritage game. Because 40 years ago today,
yeah, posted it earlier, they played...
Sheffield made their first appearance at the Allerton Stadium, beat Rochdale Hornets. Yeah. Gary Hetherington not only played in that game, but has still got his shirt from it.
Wow.
And there's a big dinner on Thursday night to celebrate 40 years of Sheffield Eagles.
Still going. This might be... yeah, we don't talk about the merger, do we?
Well, they might.
They
might on the night.
Balmain. They're the Balmain.
I think the idea of the running order on the night is Q&As with the people that established the club, the people who resurrected the club, and the people that want to take the club now forward.
And the people who killed it off in the middle.
I don't think they've been invited.
No. It's funny when people talk about IMG, isn't it? And they say, well, IMG are going to kill Rugby League. Well, we've done a good job of doing it to ourselves,
yes,
in fairness.
Gates said hello.
Yeah. I don't know why talking about Sheffield and Huddersfield made that correlation, but, it just did. So that's the championship this week. Super League. Oh, no, Wheelchair Super League. Leeds won in London.
But controversy.
7 from 7.
Yeah. 1 game to play away at Wigan. Want to go through the season unbeaten. But controversy in the aftermath.
Oh, what happened in the aftermath?
Well, a tweet from the head coach of Leeds Rhinos asking about having last week gone into print further, as he said on here, about whether the game is getting sufficient publicity. He then talked about the style that teams are playing to kill the entertainment value of the game. Push and shove and overt aggression.
Everything's going backwards, isn't it? Not everything is. Women's game in terms of coverage. Yesterday at Leeds, there was TalkSport 2 and me, which is utterly bizarre that there's a national radio station there and some bloke with a camera. But that wasn't streamed. I said the Featherstone game was streamed, that's fair enough, but what's going on with it? What are we doing? Again, the clubs have got to feed things to people.
And you may not make money straight away, but you might at some point if you do something. You're not going to make money if you do nothing.
Catalan's 18, Wigan 26. I know we raised this at the start of the season, but it is extremely jarring when Sam Tompkins of the Catalan Dragons, he's got a squad number, hasn't he? He plays for the Catalan Dragons.
Number 29.
Interviews the coach after the game.
And before the game. What are you going to do, coach? Well, you know, Sam, you were in the dressing room with me.
Did he get some free snails as well before the game as well? But,
I watched that game, thoroughly enjoyed it. Great atmosphere. The issue that Catalan have had all year is their inability to create sufficient points to win matches, and it was again evident. Clearly, the reason they have signed Luke Keary for next year, who was going to retire, is because he is a creative halfback, and even though there's an injury cloud a little bit over him, he is deemed to be a better bet than what they've got at the moment. And whatever it is at the moment, whatever combination of 6 and 7 they've tried, it hasn't worked. You look at what Tyrone May is doing at Hull KR, you take that out of the Catalan environment, and they haven't been able to replace it this year. A lot of honest endeavour up front, which we haven't seen the week before as much at Leeds, where they surrendered too much position and possession. But Bevan French back didn't have a great game, but just being back there spooked the defence on a couple of occasions. Jai Field much more comfortable when he knows Bevan French is on the field. And Junior December, everybody's talking about he's got to play for England the year. First of all, before that, he's got to be the young player of the year.
Which NRL team's going to sign him?
Or it's now Ncember, isn't it? Everyone's pronouncing Ncember.
Which NRL team's going to sign him? Because obviously he's big and he's powerful and he's talented.
They took Kai Pearce-Paul and he's not dissimilar. But I don't think you can worry about that. He's at the very, very start of his career. He's at probably the best club he could be at to develop his talent. He's got his opportunity slightly earlier because Willie Isa got injured at the beginning of the season. But he's brilliant. And I love his interviews because they're all downplayed and understated. He's got a great background story because obviously his links with the Cameroon football team through, is it his uncle Rigobert Song?
I believe so.
Who you've probably heard of.
Yeah.
All of that is a great story. He's a wonderful player, and he was absolutely majestic. What was it? Nearly 2,000 Wigan fans were there, revelling in the heat and the snails. Brilliant. Absolutely. It was a terrific watch. Do you know what time it was on?
8 o'clock.
On a Saturday night. It's funny that
9 o'clock in Catalan then.
But that Catalan didn't care that it kicked off at 9 o'clock, which is, even for them who like to go out for a meal at 11 o'clock at night, it's later than they would normally play. But they went, no, if that's when Sky are telling us we need to play, will play.
Well, it's like La Liga and the football in Spain. They kick off at all kinds of weird times because they're governed by the.
I don't
the
know
TV.
how many people would have watched that game that normally wouldn't have come across Rugby League, but it was a great, as a product, it was a great advert.
Huddersfield 10, St Helens 18. How many people started watching this game and turned over to watch Leeds and London, or London and Leeds rather, instead? I saw bits of this because I got in just after Huddersfield started their comeback, which was not good for Saints fans who I was speaking to at the time. But Saints went on and won, and Fenton Rodgers got sent off, rightfully so.
Saints did what they had to do this week, going into the last 3 games of the season and their playoff spot under threat. No matter how they did it, they needed to win. Was it Paul Whelan said they got their identity back? I think he means their ability to grit out a victory. And Huddersfield clearly have run over a black cat this season.
He's got his hair as Paul Whelan's. Shaved it all off.
Very, very short.
The Saints fans like Tammy Wynette should stand by their man. Unless they don't like him. And then
He's doing it tough. But his big test comes this week at Warrington.
Huddersfield. I'm going to assume that. Did I say this last week? Luke Robinson's not going to get the job because if they were going to give him the job, they'd have given him it anyway. And there's all these stories that they're still looking for a coach. Well, if they were going to give it to Luke Robinson, I would assume they still weren't looking in the Australian Queensland Cup or whatever.
The other thing as well about appointments of a coach at this time is that it doesn't have help with your recruitment for next year.
No. Because as we said last week, Brad Arthur's at Leeds, but
it stabilises,
the fellas at Hull, and he's.
Whereas at Huddersfield, you go, right, we'd like you to sign for us, and the player and or agent goes, who's going to be coaching the team? Because we'd like to know the style and whether it's somebody we can get on with before we commit to anything. Oh, look, we've just had another offer and we'll go there instead. 2 things about Huddersfield. Chris Hill been released from last year of his contract. Interesting. That'll free up a fair amount of salary cap, but they do need size. Size is a commodity at the moment, and he has some. Danny Levy back on the market, apparently. Well, Huddersfield perhaps need of a hooker. Should they go back for the guy who did a really good job for them? Again, he'll say, well, who's the coach going to be?
I know this is very low-hanging fruit, but 3,877. Again, it's not a criticism of those from...
Which doesn't include St Helens fans.
Not a criticism of those from Huddersfield that go week in, week out. They play London this week on Sunday. I hope the club are doing some kind of promotion to get people through the terraces, because if they're not, well, that's a dereliction of duty, because Castleford have realised that we've got to get the attendances up because it might get us 0.03 of an extra IMG point, so we'll do some ticket deals for the final games of the season.
And they've put out videos, please, to people to turn up.
Come and watch. Come watch them.
And they won this week.
They did. Huddersfield need to do something. Although I am firmly of the belief that there's nothing they can do because people just aren't interested.
But you also can't do it in the penultimate game of the season.
Ian says the best bit was the entire stand not knowing the rule in forward passes because it went forward off the floor, didn't it, or something? But they threw it backwards. So
I haven't seen enough of the game other than Fenton Rodgers sin binning and the tries. Not sin binning, sending off, which seemed valid, and his punishment would appear to exonerate that.
Tim says Saints fans should follow Kenny's mantra of knowing when to hold them and when to fold them. Going down to country music. This is the new thing. Country music's back.
Not dropping in Oasis titles.
No. Oh God, that was so terrible. There was one of the reporters on Soccer Saturday was doing it, and it's just no.
If you can,
it's not good.
Surreptitiously do it. It's clever. If it's like banging your head with a hammer, not quite so good.
Someone did it on the Rugby League as well, didn't they, this weekend? I can't remember which game it was I watched that they were doing it on.
I don't know.
Maybe it was John Wilkin, I don't know. I don't want to blame John Wilkin just in case it wasn't him. But
hope he had a safe journey home from London. Saw him as he was leaving.
IMG
gave him a copy of this very magazine.
Did you? I don't think I've read
ex-columnist John Wilkin.
Oh, God, yeah. IMG grade is going to kill the greatest game of all, says the sports boffin. No, we'll kill it ourselves. We've been saying that since 1895. Everyone said it. So we almost have killed it ourselves. Move away from the football ground is a start, says Paul. Where do Huddersfield need a smaller ground, don't they? That is more befitting of them. You know, whatever you say about Castleford, it's the perfect size.
There was a strong rumour going around, and we don't deal in rumours. No. We're not news. We're not breaking any news.
Morgan Knowles' testimony.
That there was going to be some kind of a deal that saw the owner of Huddersfield Town, who is a very rich American, buy out the development company that is in charge of running the game, and on that company is Ken Davey, who was involved in the stadium being built in the first place, and the amount of money to be offered to Ken Davey to relinquish the Giants from that partnership would be enough to put a stadium like the one I was in at London yesterday on Fartown.
It almost would be the same issue you could say of Hull. Apart from Hull sometimes do get big crowds. But
I just think there might be a willingness to allow the Giants to reclaim their historic home in a state-of-the-art way. And if that did happen, you could call it the Ken Davies Stadium because of everything he's invested. You can start again then.
And then maybe the women could play at the same place.
Well, then you own it, don't you? So you can put on whatever you want.
There's no update on the NRL Bain Super League sport spoffing because it's probably just a non-starter anyway. But I think
it makes a good headline.
Yeah, week before there'll be another story.
The question is, what would they be buying? What would they want to buy? And when we look at that, then you'll get more of an answer. I don't think anything will progress on that until they go to Las Vegas and you can have face-to-face meetings.
Hull FC 20, Castleford Tigers 39. There was a point in this game where I thought Castleford were going to throw it away somehow, but they're slightly better than Hull, who are dreadful. And the funniest thing about it all, we can say one about Hull because they don't like us anyway. They don't have my number though, so block the number. The funniest thing about this game is, of course, a player they release earlier in the season goes to Castleford, but he's been good at Castleford throughout as Tex Hoy. So what was he doing wrong at Hull that he's doing right at Castleford, or what's the system, or what's the difference? It doesn't make sense how he wasn't good at Hull, but now he's good.
It's playing to the strengths of that player, which maybe giving them a little bit more latitude, or the style that they play suits them a little bit more. Also, he went to Hull with a big reputation coming out of the NRL, big expectation, 10,000 season ticket holders. You go to Castleford as slightly damaged goods, not that his talent is any less, but obviously it didn't work in that environment, and you feel a little bit relieved that you can play like you were playing in the manner in which you were signed in the first place. So the big thing for Cass is the crowd that they get this weekend, not the result. 10,000
at Hull on Saturday, which has to be a positive for a game on 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Andy Last
is going back to Hull.
Back as the assistant coach. Where does that leave Simon Griggs, do you think? I mean,
I'm trying to.
The thing about culture, whatever that is, and whatever you're trying to build, Andy Last is Hull through and through. So to have him at the side of John Cartwright, probably not a bad thing. You could see why they might want to do that.
Are they going to give Danny Houghton some kind of job? I don't know. Does he just fade off into the ether? Does he become like Earl Crabtree at Huddersfield and shake hands with people?
Well, he is an ambassador for that team, but Andy Last coming back will help. Paul Wellens talking about identity. I don't know at the moment what the identity of Hull is, what they're trying to build. Clearly, you put Andy Last in there, good coach in his own right, doing the sessions under John Cartwright. But if you don't respect this whole jersey and what it means to the fans, I'll be into you at training, and they need somebody like that.
And both those clubs have got young players coming through as well.
They're building a bit of what they do. Yeah, I think so. But again, I can only go on the radio commentary because I couldn't quite get the.
Skype wasn't working for you.
Well, I was trying to do other things at the same time as well, and the radio is brilliant. I'd say it here, Richard Steady is one of the finest commentators we've got, and I always enjoy listening to him. Great listening to Scott Taylor as well. His insight was brilliant. His accent absolutely perfect for BBC local radio.
Hull Kingston Rovers 32, Salford Red Devils 12. That was on Friday night. I think I was flicking between this and the Lee Warrington game because both were interesting in different ways. Hull came out still top of the table. They've still got to be knocked off. They've got that game this week away at Wigan, which is obviously going to be a massive contest. Wigan are going to be favourites going into that, regardless of the way the form has been going in the last few weeks, and obviously buoyed by that win at Catalans, but Hull KR keep winning, and
every test that they've been thrown up over the last month, they've passed with aplomb. They've got a really, really well balanced team, but they've got confidence, and they've got confidence in each other because the team's unchanged virtually every week. Apart from either an injury or suspension, the core of that team is the same. And some of their players are playing at the top of their game. May is brilliant. Lewis gets the headlines, and rightly so. He can do things. Although Nicarima might want to look at the tackle he didn't make when Lewis scored a brilliant try. But everybody's focusing on Minchella, superb. But Matt Parcell's in the form of his life at the moment, and they're spreading the work amongst the forwards. People are coming off the bench and making a difference. If Whitbread's either starting or coming off the bench, and Tangano has been superb off the bench. They just look a very, very good, well-rounded team that believes in what they're doing. Salford are just a bit enigmatic at the moment. 1 week, brilliant, 60 points. The next week, lose at Hull KR, and the coach says, we weren't very good this week. So, their inconsistency might be the issue that sees them drop out the six, if anybody is going to. And the problem they've got, as we've said it before, is their negative points difference.
They obviously lost at Wembley last year to Lee in that dramatic Golden Point final. Whether that experience will do them well in going forward into this playoff series.
And they made the playoffs. So it's an incremental building, and they're getting better players every year into a system that people know is successful. The other thing is, Willie Peters re-signed on a 4-year deal. Compare that to Huddersfield, who can't make a decision about who they want their next coach to be at the moment. People like Gerard Warrea-Hargreaves, who might have been a target for Huddersfield, could have replaced Chris Hill, goes, no, I want to be where Sean Kenny-Dowell's on the coaching staff. Willie Peters, I've heard of, is very, very good. In fact, I've seen him assistant coaching at South, I think it was. I want to go there. If there's an offer on the table, Mr. Agent, sign it up for me.
I want 2 spreads from the tournament sponsors. Games he's going to be suspended for next season. And if we did bring back Yorkshire-Lancashire, how many players are going to pull out with groin strains in the week before? Because I guarantee that would happen as well.
But again, under a draft system, he'd be great, wouldn't he? Can you imagine? What kind of game do you want? Oh, we're going for JWH. Right, okay.
I hope Hull KR charged by the letter on the backs of shirts as well.
Shouldn't they market him as JWH, though? Everything's
I say that about Jodie Boyd-Ward, don't I? She's our Sonny Bill Williams. Apart more scary.
CNK, Charles Nickel Clock
Yeah,
Staff.
all these double-barreled surname people. You've got to go by initials. Got to do it. Well, for me, hasn't it? Everyone just calls me that now.
RSW.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. It's not even my real name. Before we move on to Lee and Warrington, because I'll forget, Paul says, has the salary cap done more harm than good? Could we just jump around anyway? Way back when there was no cap, but nowhere near the number of teams going bust as they have been in recent years. I still don't trust people. If you give them an unlimited, we're not losing players in the same. I know we lose players to Australia, but we're not losing them to other sports.
I just think that modern day sport is entrepreneurial, and if you've got somebody that wants to come in and spend, the one thing it doesn't guarantee is a winning team. I call as my first witness Dr. Marwan Kukash.
Viv Nicholson of Rugby League.
I just think that there is a case for saying, let's look at abolishing the salary cap. And if Simon Moran at Warrington wants to go back to the days of signing anyone who is available rather than putting a team together, it's his right to do so. Doesn't necessarily bring you a successful team. And I think, if somebody did want to go out and buy, I can't name a rugby union player at the moment. I just can't. And
George Formby,
yeah. If somebody wants to go out and buy them, why shouldn't they?
Who's the other?
But you get dispensation for rugby union players anyway. But if you wanted to make a bid for
Martin
Antoine Dupont,
I've heard of him. Yeah, Danica Prim mentioned it. Hilariously, right? So, as I was pointing out yesterday to people, I can't recognise players. I'm no good at it. But they have on the big screen at Headingley, guess who? Guess who all these players are? And it's female players from the past. And you have to work out who they are. And they're blurred out. So
what's the prize?
There's no prize, sadly.
It's not York chocolate.
One was Lois because I've recognised the hair.
Curly.
Yep. 2, Connie Winfield Hill. She had the trophy. 3, Georgia Hale.
Great commentator.
She is great. Georgia Hale, which was surprised to see her in the Leeds kit.
Yeah, well, that must have been one of the 4 games she played, yeah.
4.
Currently Gold Coast Titans.
Her. But they spelled her name wrong. Only one eye.
Oh, that's bad.
From the club and everything.
Her Estonian parentage would be
so
upset about that.
She's back off her holidays yet? I don't know. See, I was going to ask, had Leeds won, because I like to throw in a question, I would have gone to Amy Hardcastle. Well, I wouldn't have done because I'm scared of her.
Yeah, you wouldn't know anywhere near her. Hannah Butcher, she likes you.
Yeah, but she wasn't in Ibiza the other week, so I would have said to Amy Hardcastle or Caitlin Casey, who I've never spoken to, but I'm probably scared of her as well. If you were Angela Rayner, where would you go in Ibiza? That kind of thing. Because that would wind people up. So it's good.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Phil's going with 12 yellows for Jordan Warrior Hargreaves next year.
Is that in one game?
Yeah. So 38 charges, 34 weeks suspended. Is that over his whole contract? How long is his contract?
3 years.
I mean, at least he's going to be here longer than Willie Mason. So that's a positive. But I mean, the thing for Hull KR is don't do what Hull FC did and do a range of merchandise like they do with Pele, because that obviously was. I don't know if they pound it off to Bradford. I don't know.
JWH under a strict Australian coach will be fine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We do need those players who you can say to people.
Absolutely, he's a great player. Do you know? I'd like Naz to sign.
Naz.
Nelson Asafa Solomona.
It's all going on. It's like the NFL. Lee Leopard 16, Warrington Wolves 12. We mentioned Paul Vaughan's sending off earlier. Again, he looks innocuous in real time, but we're not here to work out what's.
I think the Warrington performance, having lost Paul Vaughan, was incredibly commendable. And as Sam Burgess himself pointed out, they won 12-10 after the sending off.
Does he want some points though?
No, but it tells you everything about his team, I think. And going into these last few games that mean the most in terms of, the games at the front of the season are also carry the same amount of points. But if you're in contention at the end, these are the ones that really matter. So it's your form going into the playoffs. I'd be delighted with that if I was him, the way that they played and coped with that. I also think that it's almost nailed on now that they will be third. I know that mathematically they're not yet, but I can't see them accruing enough points to overtake Hull KR or Wigan now. No. And then the question becomes, winning from third is not easy. You're there to be shot at in the first elimination game. Team that finishes sixth, possibly Lee coming in on a wet sail, goes to Warrington. Tough game. But he needs to regroup. He's going to be without Vaughan now for the regular season games unless they appeal and get the ban of 3 games reduced.
Well, then having him back and fresh for the playoffs might not be necessarily a bad thing. If you're forced not to play rather than...
He's got his guys playing with a measure of belief between them all that what they're doing will bring them success. It may not be this year, but if they lose out this year, they will be the team to beat.
Are we saying that 2025 might be Warrington's year?
No, I'm not saying
anything.
Imagine
if you will,
get the T-shirt printed.
The following scenario, where either St Helens or Leeds win the grand final, and Josh Charlie's moving closer to whoever is moving closer.
Danny Maguire.
Charlton.
But it's all right moving close to Danny Maguire. Ryan Hall's above him now, and it's only super.
So if they had a century plus of Rugby League official VHS box set, who'd be on there now instead of Robbie Hunter-Paul? Who's on there? Look.
Ryan Hall.
I think that's Robbie anyway. Looks like Robbie. I'd have put Henry on there myself, but Sean Edwards.
He was good.
Has he signed it and it's kind of rubbing off now?
Yeah.
Might be John Champion.
It could be Scully.
Yeah.
He'd sign anything.
He's on there with the ball in hand. He looks like he's running at full pace there.
That's an interception.
Is that one of his,
I think that's against Featherstone in the Yorkshire Cup final.
Phil says the young fullback has plenty of potential. Now I don't know which fullback we're talking about.
Harry Robertson.
Or the one at Warrington, Taylor Ray.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good youngsters coming through. We again, we can produce players, but we need a competition that's going to keep them long term.
Paul says, before the cap clubs knew they had to live within their means, but now it seems they aspire to spend up to the cap limit, even though many can't afford it. Well,
One of the reasons the cap was brought in or discussed was because obviously Wigan, in an era when they were winning everything, were signing everybody, and you go to Central Park and you look in the stand, slightly fearful of how many you were going to get beaten by, and you'd realise that Wigan had a whole team of internationals who weren't playing, and one of the reasons to obviously try and even up the competition was because of that. And in evening up the competition, we've only had 4 winners in nearly 30 years.
They like to sign a Danny or a Nigel Wright or whoever the next.
To sit on the
Craig Murdoch,
Terry O'Connor.
Baz.
Yeah, from old.
Bit,
Yeah. But that was the logic behind it. We need to rein back the best. Actually, by not having a salary cap, do you not aspire to try and match the best? The problem with that, conversely, was Leeds very nearly went bankrupt trying to catch Wigan, and Widnes did. All but.
But Leeds have got new stands now, so that's and winners. This week in Super League, Friday night, Castleford Lee, Leeds Hull, and Wigan versus Hull KR.
That's the game.
That's the game on
For the destination, everybody's decided of the League Leaders Shield. Not necessarily, but whoever wins that will be in prime position to claim it.
Saturday, Salford Catalans at 5:30.
Which is, in many ways,
on the BBC,
the second best game of the weekend, because so much is riding on that.
Warrington St Helens, 3:00.
Massive.
No international football. So. No Premier League football.
That could have been 8:00.
Sunday, Huddersfield London.
I'll be tuning in.
I mean, I'll be finishing work. So
we'll be putting a magazine.
Oh yeah, but I need to write some more stuff for it, don't I? Georgia Rutt scored for Newcastle.
She did. Her body shape looks slightly different when I saw the highlights.
So
she has been the full-time professional and really suits her. She looked like a.
The theory is that she's because her halfback partner, whose name I've forgotten, but the really good player.
Hannah Southwell.
That's the one. Because she's not playing, she's able to take more responsibility. But then the young number 7 they've got next to us is really good as well.
She just looks like a real
proper
full-time professional athlete.
It's good. So when England play Wales in the autumn, although when Yorkshire play Lancashire before that as the test trial, I guess she'll be playing for Yorkshire. She's from Cass. So.
Aye.
That's just going to be Leeds and York versus St Helens plus Tara Jane Stanley.
And some Wigan players.
Oh dear. Final thoughts on the thing. The RFL needs to grow the game somehow outside the M62. As a London Broncos fan, we do exist in the South, untapped potential. Well, I think we said that at the start. We just don't know what we're doing, and we haven't.
Well, and the other thing is, if the game is going to be grown, money has to be allocated to grow the game. The other clubs may well have to contribute something, and they're not going to in the current economic environment. It was a brilliant day at London yesterday. The club deserve a hearing to at least understand what they need to do, what they need to change themselves, and it's not just about results on the field. Yeah, we love what they've done this year. They've been a breath of fresh air. They haven't given in any single game that they've played, no matter what the score's been. They've developed some great young talent from outside of the traditional areas. But what do they need to do as a club to be sustainable? Because at the moment, whether you like grading or not, it's indicative of how strong you are as a club.
Peter Volandis doesn't sit in his office I assume in Sydney. I don't know where the NRL
I would think so.
He doesn't have a dartboard there and has Perth, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand too.
Pretty sure he doesn't.
Tasmania.
It's a strategy, I think. But it's based around finance. So it's all right saying the game needs to. The game hasn't got enough finance. How are we going to generate the interest and the finance and the more money from television in future years? Would that be helped by having London? Would it benefit Castleford and Huddersfield and Hull and Leeds and Wigan if London are strong? Would the game over a period of time be stronger for that? If it is, you have to invest in that.
How much money do we need to tempt Sean Johnson out of retirement?
Well, even if he came as a coach, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
I'm still not over that trying 2030.
I can't get over the tube journey back when nobody could even think of a word to say because we were still trying to process. We'd already assumed in our
Did
mind.
you stay till the end of the Australia-Fiji
did,
game? I'm going to
yeah.
say you must have done, yeah. I mean, I had to get a train back.
We
left at
were
half-time.
going to the World Cup final the following week. It was nailed on. Oh, what? And the next minute we sat there going, New Zealand are going to a World Cup final. Yeah. I don't know what to say. He's a hot stepper.
On that annoying note, we'll be back next Monday, won't we? There's no bank holidays now. That's it now. And,
not till Christmas.
We might know where the league leader shield is. We might have come up with more ideas to come up with. It must have been a slow news week for John to put that story out because there's nothing else going on. Some bird just says, "Bring back Yorkshire, Lancashire." Next, maybe if I'm not working, I'll ask Paul Wellens on his press conference. I'll ask Brad Arthur. I'll go into the Leeds press call, whatever it is, because you know, if they send me the link, and I'll say, Brad,
what do you think of Yorkshire?
Nice to see you, Yorkshire Lancashire. What do you think? I'll phone it. Wait for say, can I ask Darryl Powell? He played in them.
He did,
and he played in Sheffield's first game.
Proud Yorkshire. So, yes, I think he'll be at the dinner on Thursday night.
So there you go. Congratulations, Sheffield. Commiserations, Mansfield Marksman. They didn't quite make it.
Marksman,
yeah. And Scarborough. And
Kenton Victor. Nebber Vale. South Shields.
Acton and Wellston. Anyone else? London Highfield.
Oxford Cavaliers.
Gloucestershire All Goals. Well, they're kind of back. They're not really back, are they? No. That'll upset people. Right, well, we'll see you next week. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your thing. And at least the microphone worked in the end. We'll see if it does next.